Our story begins in a land of ancient kingdoms, long before the famous temples of Angkor Wat rose from the jungle. Around 2,000 years ago, a powerful state known as Funan controlled the southern parts of what is now Cambodia. This kingdom was a vital hub for sea trade. Ships from as far away as India and even the Roman Empire would arrive at its ports. With all these different people coming to trade spices, silks, and precious metals, a simple system of bartering was no longer enough. The people of Funan needed something more organized, something everyone could agree on. This need gave birth to the very first coins seen in this region. These earliest coins were not made by the Funanese themselves. Instead, they were brought by the traders. The most common ones were silver coins from India, but among them, we find the first hints of copper money. These were likely small, simple pieces, perhaps inspired by the Indian designs. Their purpose was straightforward. They were used for everyday transactions. Imagine buying rice at a market or paying for a ferry ride across a river. For these small purchases, large silver coins were impractical. A smaller, less valuable copper coin was the perfect solution. It allowed the economy to become more complex and to grow. The coins themselves were quite humble. They were often irregularly shaped, sometimes round, sometimes a little bit square. The designs were very simple. Many had a rising sun on one side, a symbol of power and life. On the other side, you might find a temple or a sacred symbol, showing the importance of religion in daily life. These were not coins with detailed portraits of kings. They were functional pieces of metal, stamped with symbols that everyone understood. They were a sign of a society that was becoming more connected, not just with its neighbors, but with the wider world. It was the first step on a long journey of monetary history. Archaeologists have found these early coins buried in the earth, often near ancient port cities. Each discovery is a tiny window into the past. It tells us about the trade routes that crisscrossed the ancient world. It shows us how ideas and technologies, like the concept of coinage, traveled along with the goods. These small pieces of copper are more than just old money. They are evidence of a vibrant international community that existed in Cambodia centuries before the great Angkorian kings. They represent the very beginning of a story that would see many changes through times of peace and times of war. As we move forward in time, we arrive at the Great Khmer Empire, also known as the Angkorian period. This was an age of incredible power and creativity. The Khmer kings built vast cities and magnificent temples, including the world-famous Angkor Wat. Their empire stretched across much of Southeast Asia. Given this incredible wealth and organization, one might expect to find a sophisticated system of coins. But here, we encounter a fascinating puzzle. For a long time, historians believed that the Great Angkorian Empire did not use coins at all. It seemed almost impossible for such a complex society to function without them. The evidence for this belief was the lack of coins found at Angkorian sites. While archaeologists unearthed amazing sculptures and inscriptions, coins were mysteriously absent. It was thought that the empire's economy ran on a system of barter. Rice was the main currency. Taxes were paid in rice. Soldiers were paid in rice. Everything was measured by its value in rice. For larger transactions, people used precious metals like gold and silver, but these were traded by weight, not as stamped coins. It was a system that clearly worked, as the empire thrived for over 600 years. It was a kingdom of temples, not of treasuries filled with coins. However, recent discoveries are beginning to change this long-held view. In the last few decades, a very specific type of coin has been found in areas that were once part of the Angkorian kingdom. These are small, curious coins, made of a mixture of copper, lead, and tin. They are not grand or impressive. They are tiny, often less than half an inch across. One side is completely blank. The other side has a simple but very distinct design. It shows a creature that looks like a bird, perhaps a duck or a goose, with its head turned backwards. This mysterious bird has become the center of a great deal of debate among experts. So, were these the coins of Angkor? The evidence is still being pieced together. These bird coins are found in the right places and from the right time period. They seem to have been used for small local trade, much like the earlier Funan coins. Perhaps the great transactions of the state were done with rice and bullion, while ordinary people in the marketplace used these little copper coins. The mystery is not yet solved, but the discovery of these humble bird coins gives us a new and more complex picture of life in the mighty Khmer Empire. It suggests that even in a world dominated by rice, the need for small change was still present. After the decline of the Angkorian Empire around the 15th century, Cambodia entered what is known as the Middle Period. The capital moved away from Angkor, first to Lovek and then to Aodong. This was a time of great change and often great conflict. The kingdom was frequently at war with its powerful neighbors, Siam, modern Thailand, and Vietnam. Despite this turmoil, it was during this period that Cambodia's own distinct coinage truly began to flourish. The mysterious bird symbol from the Angkorian era evolved and became much more common. This bird is often identified as the Hamsa, a sacred goose from Hindu and Buddhist mythology. The Hamsa bird became the defining feature of Cambodian copper coins for several centuries. These coins were no longer the tiny, crudely made pieces of the past. They were larger, often about the size of a modern nickel, and were made almost entirely of copper. The method of making them also changed. Instead of being cast in molds, they were now struck. This means a blank piece of copper was placed between two dies and then struck with a hammer. This process created a much clearer and more detailed design. The Hamsa was usually shown on one side, often looking quite majestic and stylized. The other side of the coin, known as the reverse, began to show more complex designs. At first, it might have simple geometric patterns or floral motifs, but over time, inscriptions started to appear. These were written in the ancient Khmer script. They often did not name a specific king, but instead gave a date or a symbol representing the royal city. This was a significant step. The coins were now carrying written information, connecting them directly to the authority that issued them. They were becoming a true symbol of the kingdom's sovereignty, even in a time of struggle. These copper Hamsa coins were the workhorses of the Cambodian economy. They were used in bustling markets up and down the Mekong and Tonle Sap rivers. People used them to buy fish, vegetables, cloth, and all the necessities of daily life. Because they were used so much, many of the coins that survive today are very worn. The details of the Hamsa bird are often smoothed away from centuries of being passed from hand to hand. Each worn coin is a testament to the countless transactions it was a part of. It is a small, tangible link to the lives of ordinary Cambodian people during this turbulent but creative period of their history. As we move into the 17th and 18th centuries, the Cambodian capital was centered at Lovek and later Aodong. This era saw a wonderful explosion in the variety of copper coin designs. While the Hamsa bird remained a popular symbol, it was no longer the only one. The royal mints, under the authority of the kings, began to experiment with new imagery. This creativity shows a kingdom that, despite external pressures, maintained a strong sense of its own identity. The coins from this period are some of the most interesting for collectors, because there are so many different types to discover. One of the most beautiful new designs to appear was the lotus flower. The lotus is a powerful symbol in Buddhism, representing purity, enlightenment, and rebirth. Coins were struck with a fully bloomed lotus flower on one side. The petals were often rendered with great care and artistry. On the other side, there would usually be an inscription in Khmer, sometimes giving the name of the era or the royal city of Aodong. These lotus coins were not just pieces of money, they were small works of art that carried a deep religious meaning. They reminded the user of the central role that Buddhism played in Cambodian society. Another fascinating design from this time is the crawling serpent, or Naga. The Naga is a mythical serpent deity, believed to be a protector of the kingdom and a spirit of the waters. In Cambodian legend, the very first Khmer king married a Naga princess, and so these serpents are seen as ancestors of the Cambodian people. A coin showing a Naga was a powerful symbol of royal power and the protection of the nation. These coins are often cruder in design than the lotus coins, but they are full of character. The serpent is usually shown in a simplified S shape, a potent and easily recognizable image. Alongside these symbolic designs, the mints also produced coins with more abstract geometric patterns. Some looked like stars, others like spirals or wheels. It is not always clear what these patterns were meant to represent. They may have simply been decorative or they could have had meanings that are now lost to us. What is clear is that this was a period of great numismatic freedom. The variety of Hamsa birds, lotus flowers, nagas, and geometric shapes tells the story of a vibrant culture. Each coin was a small message from the king, a symbol of his authority and his kingdom's enduring spirit. The middle of the 19th century brought a dramatic change to Cambodia and its coins. The kingdom had been weakened by centuries of conflict with its neighbors. To protect itself from being completely absorbed by Siam and Vietnam, King Norodom sought the protection of a powerful European nation. In 1863, Cambodia officially became a protectorate of France. This event marked the beginning of a long period of French influence that would transform every aspect of Cambodian life, including its money. The traditional copper coins with their Hamza birds and lotus flowers were about to be replaced. The French had their own ideas about how a modern economy should work. They wanted to create a single, unified currency for all their territories in the region, which they called French Indochina. This area included Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. The old system, with its many different local coin designs, was seen as inefficient and chaotic. The French aimed to introduce a new system based on the silver piastre de commerce, or trade dollar. This large silver coin was the standard. But for everyday use, smaller coins, including copper ones, were needed to fit into this new decimal system. The first step was to stop the production of the traditional Cambodian coins. The royal mint at Udong, which had been striking Hamza and lotus coins for generations, was shut down. This was a significant moment. It was not just the end of a type of currency, but a symbol of the loss of Cambodia's full independence. The power to create money, a fundamental right of a sovereign king, was now in the hands of the French authorities. The familiar copper coins that people had used for centuries began to disappear from the markets, replaced by something new and foreign. The new coins were completely different. They were uniform in size and weight, and manufactured in modern mints in Europe, primarily in Paris. The designs no longer featured Cambodian symbols like the Hamsa or the Naga. Instead, they featured French symbols. The reverse side of the new copper coins showed the value, such as 1 centime, surrounded by a wreath. The other side featured a seated figure of liberty, the symbol of the French Republic, with the words République Française. The local identity of Cambodian coinage was erased, replaced by the standardized currency of a colonial power. This was a new chapter, one of money as a tool of empire. Before the French fully established their colonial currency, there was a brief and fascinating period of transition under King Norodom I. Norodom was the king who signed the treaty making Cambodia a French protectorate. But he was also a proud ruler who wanted to modernize his kingdom on his own terms. One of his projects was to create Cambodia's first modern machine-struck coinage. This was an attempt to show that Cambodia was a sovereign nation, capable of producing coins that were equal to those of any European country. He commissioned a whole new set of coins, from small copper pieces to large silver ones. These coins were designed in Cambodia, but, interestingly, they were not made there. King Norodom did not have a modern mint capable of producing such high-quality coins, so he had them struck at a private mint in Brussels, Belgium. The coins were dated 1860, even though they were not actually minted or put into circulation until many years later. The copper coins from this series are particularly beautiful. They came in several denominations, the smallest being the 5 centimes and the largest being the 10 centimes. They were a perfect blend of Cambodian tradition and European technology. The design of these copper coins was magnificent. On one side, they featured the royal coat of arms of Cambodia. This is a complex and beautiful design with 2 mythical creatures holding up a sacred sword placed on a pedestal, all under a royal umbrella. Above the arms, the Khmer inscription read, Norodom I, King of Cambodia. This was a powerful statement of national identity. The other side of the coin showed the denomination, for example 10 centimes, and the date, 1860, all within an intricate wreath. For the first time, a Cambodian coin had the portrait of a living monarch and used both Khmer and French script. Sadly, these beautiful coins were never widely used. By the time they arrived in Cambodia, the French were already introducing their own unified currency for Indochina. The French authorities saw Norodom's coins as a challenge to their control, and they discouraged their use. As a result, most of these coins never entered circulation. Many were kept by the king or given as gifts to officials. Today, King Norodom's 1860 copper coins are very rare and highly sought after by collectors. They represent a what-if moment in Cambodian history, a vision of a modern, independent Cambodia that was not to be. As Cambodia moved into the 20th century, its currency continued to be dominated by the French Indochinese piastre. The copper centime coins, with their French Liberty design, were the standard small change for decades. But the world was changing. The desire for independence from colonial rule was growing across Asia. After World War II, France's grip on its empire weakened. In 1953, under the leadership of King Norodom Sihanouk, Cambodia finally achieved its full independence. With independence came the need for a new national currency, one that would reflect the country's restored sovereignty. The new currency was called the riel. The first series of riel coins was introduced in 1953. For the first time in almost a century, Cambodia was producing its own money again. The new coins were made of aluminium, not copper, as it was a cheaper and more modern material at the time. However, the designs consciously looked back to Cambodia's rich history. They moved away from French symbols and embraced Cambodian ones. The coins featured the national coat of arms, images of the Naga serpent, and inscriptions in the Khmer language. It was a proud moment of national rebirth, reflected in the metal of the people's pockets. This period of peaceful independence, known as the Sangkum Rister Neum, was a time of great progress. However, it was not to last. By the late 1960s, the Vietnam War was spilling over into Cambodia, destabilizing the country. In 1970, King Sihanouk was overthrown in a coup, and the Khmer Republic was declared. This new government issued its own coins. Again, these were mostly aluminium. The designs changed to reflect the new political reality. The royal coat of arms was replaced with a depiction of the Angkor Wat Temple, a symbol of the nation rather than the monarchy. These coins circulated during a time of escalating civil war. This chaotic period saw the value of the riel plummet. As the fighting intensified, the economy collapsed. People lost faith in the official currency. The coins, once a symbol of independence and then of a new republic, became increasingly worthless. Many people reverted to barter or used foreign currencies like the US dollar for any significant transactions. The coins of the Khmer Republic represent the last moments before the country descended into an even darker chapter of its history. They are relics of a nation on the brink of an unimaginable catastrophe, a final flicker of a formal economy before the darkness fell. In April 1975, the Civil War ended when the fanatical communist movement known as the Khmer Rouge captured the capital city, Phnom Penh. What followed was one of the most brutal and radical revolutions in human history. The Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, had a vision of creating a purely agrarian, classless society. To achieve this, they sought to destroy every trace of the old world. This included religion, education, family ties, and one of the most fundamental aspects of any modern society: money. Upon taking power, the Khmer Rouge made a shocking decision. They completely abolished currency. They announced that money was the root of all evil, the cause of oppression and inequality. Banks were dynamited. The national currency, the riel, was declared worthless. Piles of riel banknotes were literally thrown into the streets or burned. The coins of the Khmer Republic became useless pieces of metal overnight. The Khmer Rouge even had a new set of coins and banknotes printed in China before they took power. But, in a bizarre twist, they decided not to issue them. They wanted a society with no money at all. For nearly 4 years, Cambodia became a land without currency. Life in democratic Kampuchea, as the country was renamed, was a return to a primitive barter system, but one controlled by terror. The entire population was forced out of the cities to work as slave laborers in the countryside. People were organized into communes where all property was held in common. Food was distributed in meager rations by the Khmer Rouge cadres. There was no buying or selling. There were no shops, no markets, and no wages. The concept of personal wealth was eliminated. The copper and aluminium coins of the past, if anyone had kept them, were dangerous relics of a forbidden world. In January 1979, an invasion by Vietnamese forces toppled the Khmer Rouge regime. The country was liberated, but it was completely broken. The new government, the People's Republic of Kampuchea, faced the monumental task of rebuilding a nation from zero. One of the very first steps was to reintroduce money. In 1980, the riel was brought back as the national currency. New coins were issued, but the economy was in ruins, and people had lost the habit of using money. For many years, foreign currencies, especially the US dollar and the Thai baht, were more trusted and widely used for any large transaction, a legacy that continues to this day. There were no copper coins in this new beginning. Aluminium was the metal of choice for a shattered economy. In the 1990s, after the United Nations brokered peace agreements and the restoration of the monarchy, Cambodia began a new era of stability and economic growth. With this new chapter came a new series of coins, issued in 1994. For the first time in decades, copper made a return to Cambodian coinage, although in a modern form. These new coins were not pure copper, but copper-plated steel, a more durable and cost-effective material. The series included 4 denominations: 50, 100, 200, and 500 riel. These coins were designed to circulate alongside the banknotes and re-establish the riel in daily life. The designs of these modern coins are a beautiful reflection of Cambodia's identity. They celebrate both its ancient heritage and its modern aspirations. The 50 riel coin, for example, features the Independence Monument in Phnom Penh. The 100 riel coin depicts the magnificent Angkor Wat Temple, the nation's most famous landmark. The 200 riel coin shows the Preah Vihear Temple, another important historical site. And the highest value coin, the 500 riel, proudly displays the national coat of arms, linking the modern state back to the royal traditions of King Norodom's era. These coins are symbols of a nation that is rebuilding and reclaiming its history. Despite their beautiful designs, these modern copper-plated coins have struggled to find a place in the everyday economy. Due to years of instability and inflation, Cambodia has become a highly dollarized society. For most transactions, especially in the cities, people prefer to use US dollars. The Cambodian riel is often used only for small change, for amounts less than $1. As a result, the coins, particularly the higher denominations like the 200 and 500 riel pieces, are not commonly seen in circulation. Many Cambodians may go weeks or months without handling one. And so, the story of Cambodia's copper coins comes full circle. It began with small, humble pieces of metal used for minor transactions in ancient trading ports. It journeyed through empires, wars, and revolutions. And today, modern copper-plated coins once again serve a similar purpose, as the small change of a nation. While they may not be as widely used as the banknotes, they remain an important symbol. They are a testament to the resilience of the Cambodian people and their enduring national identity, struck in metal for all the world to see. From the Funan sun to the modern coat of arms, the copper coin tells the long and incredible story of Cambodia.